and gentlemen, for these boats here. We're going to sell them to this man here for $1. Going once, going twice, going 3 times and gone. $4, any that's over the floor, let's call it 4. We'll pass those up, they're really nice. $4 once, twice, go right there to $4, Mr.
Florida Water Supply Office, Downsville, presently the Schoolhouse Inn.
Well, yesterday we finished up this area in around here. Contract 416 is about 90% done now.
Oh, that's fine. Now it's up to us to make every effort to expedite the additional highway work and clearing up in the upper end of the valley, and of course also in connection with the remaining details on the dam.
Well, we're better than 90% complete. It would certainly be a difficult thing for the public to realize the amount of planning that went into this work without having gone through it. We expect to start flooding the valley this summer. This has certainly been an engineering project that's kept us on our toes during the past 5 or 6 years. It'll be the biggest reservoir in New York City's water supply system and will furnish the city with 335 million gallons daily of potable water.
Water on its way to New York City.
Fritz Heitzel.
This is my farm. The boat is coming, but I like to stay here as long as I can.
Lower Shavertown covered bridge over Beechell Brook. This is our farm, George Hoag Farm, as it's being destroyed. Shavertown, there's tearing down some of the houses. Atkins store and post office. Looking up Main Street towards Route 30. George Reinhardt's house being torn down. Ines Atkin, postmistress.
I've been postmaster here 30 years, and words would fail to tell you how hard it is to leave.
Frank Van Dusen.
1750. And I'll tell you, I hate to leave, but I've got it. I don't feel too good about it. No man likes to leave his old home, no matter how well paid by the city. But we cannot stand in the way of fathers. I certainly feel pretty sore about getting out of here. This property's been in our hands for 65 years. I was born and brought up here, and I know them from far and near. And money don't mean anything in this world when you're not contented.
That was Ed Van
I lived
Dusen.
39 years in this valley, raised a family, and it's a terrible hardship to leave it. It's much of my regret I've got to go, but New York City needs water.
That was Darrell Atkin. This is Shavertown. Amanda Fletcher.
The good Lord give us, and the good Lord take us away.
These films were taken by George Hoag in the early 1950s. This is the area before the Pepacton Reservoir was built.
This is a little pull out below the Byington farm. Irv Bryden lived there, Clappertons, and this is the Augustine house. This is the fields on the Byington farm. There's a little farm above the Byington farm. This is where Don Byington lived. This is a Jack Bow farm, a real nice farm. I believe it's 580 acres. It's at the intersection of Coles Cove Road and Route 30. Pepacton covered bridge, 168 foot long. This is a Maynard Shaver farm. It was between Pepacton and Downsville on the Back River Road.
This is on the Back River Road, Don Bramley's farm, between Pepacton and Shavertown.
Another real nice dairy farm. This is the core wall just above Downsville for the Downsville Dam.
Ray Bramley is pumping gas in our car at Shavertown. That's his gas station and radio repair shop. Jim Bramley's house on the hill. Looking down the street. This was Ray Bramley's house across from his gas station. The Shavertown Presbyterian Church along the east branch of the Delaware River. That's the manse right at the end of the Iron Bridge in Shavertown. This was a church picnic at the Presbyterian Church. The windows are now up in the Andes Presbyterian Church and in the Sunday school part. Carl McEwen sitting at the end of the table. Reverend Mahaffey standing beside him. The two younger Atkins boys, Gary and Dale. Darrell Atkins' house. Looking across the river at Byron Huggins' farm from Shavertown. Milford Butler with the horses. Ina Seth, George Hogue, Byron Huggins coming out of the Shavertown post office. Darrell Atkin with a red shirt and some Shavertown boys. Shavertown store and post office. Now we're up at Tom Davis's. Carmy Davis with the brown sweater is showing my mother, Letha Hogue, and myself her dahlias. Her place was a little ways above Shavertown along Route 30 going towards Margaretville. The oldest house in Shavertown. Woodrow Dent lived there last. Fletcher Hall, where the Grange had their dances. Milford Butler's house. It's the Iron Bridge over the east branch of the Delaware River. You can see the stone wall at the left. It went down along River Street in Shavertown. This was the Conklin place. That was the Conklin house. This was Maud Cox's house, just up the hill off Route 30, overlooking Shavertown. That's Maud Cox in front of her house. My grandmother, Amanda Fletcher. Ina Seth, looking at her flowers. This was Ina Seth's barn. Looking down the road, you'll see Harold Paul's barn. This was Ina Seth's house next to the lower Shavertown covered bridge over Beach Hill Brook. This is Ben Conklin's farm. It's Ben Conklin coming out of his house. His farm was located near the Route 30 bridge over the Pepacton Reservoir. This was the auction at his farm as he left the valley. Hank Christian. Percy Smith on the tractor. Dewey Scudder on the baler. They're baling hay up in the Union Grove area late in the fall. There's a cemetery on the hill in back. Shavertown Presbyterian Church. Dora Bramley with the red coat. Marion and Bruce Armstrong. Ray Bramley with the blue suit. Ward Shaver. Leela Shaver, Carrie Fenton, Carrie Elwood, Ed Van Dusen with a box. Now they're starting to tear down the Presbyterian church. The siding has been taken off. This is looking up towards Route 30 in Shavertown. Melford Butler's house, Christina Hoag's house. That was my grandmother. Sprague's store, Armstrong's store, tearing down Mrs. Armstrong's house. John Teitch's house. This is looking up Route 30 towards Arena and Margaretville. This is along the river at Shavertown. We're starting to destroy the town here. Melford Butler's house, the siding is off. This is another auction. There's a piece of a house going up the road towards
This is a Tremperskill Rod and Gun Club. They got their materials from the buildings in the valley.
This is another view of Shavertown from the present Route 30 road. This is Shavertown. This is the last mail that's coming into Shavertown, going out for the last time, March 31, 1954. That's Carrie Fenton going in the post office. That's the mail truck bringing in the last mail. Byron Huggins' house at Shavertown.
This is on the George Hoag farm. That's the spring house.
This was the auction at Atkins' store and post office. They had a big crowd. Mary Thane's house. Darrell Atkin on the left, George Tupper, the auctioneer, is on the right. This is Shavertown. Most of the houses and buildings are gone at this point. All the trees and all the buildings had to be taken out or burned. This was the auction at Ed Van Dusen's place on the road between Shavertown and Union Grove. That's a TV crew taking film there. This is Ed Van Dusen's house.
Leland Teich.
This is the Shavertown Cemetery. Across the road from the Catholic Church on the Back River Road. They're taking up the graves at the cemetery. All the graves and tombstones were removed and taken to other area cemeteries. That's the Halbert Monument, my grandfather, at the top of the Shavertown Cemetery. And that's the Hotchkiss Monument, my great-grandparents, in the old part of the cemetery. Mary Fenton. This is the old part of the Shavertown Cemetery. Altogether, there were 13 cemeteries in the valley that had to be moved. This is Shavertown. Everything is gone. Now they're building the Route 30 bridge that now crosses the Pepacton Reservoir. This is a barn raising. Martin Jobman tore down the hog barn, my father's barn, below Shavertown, moved it up Buzzy Hollow, and built an addition onto his barn with the lumber. Now the area is being filled with water. All the buildings, all the trees are gone. This is the construction of the Route 30 bridge over the Pepacton Reservoir. My mother, Lisa Hogue, and myself out on the flat of our farm. my father, George Hogue, watching all the construction around the farm. That's the Back River Road. Run along the flat on the farm. Now we're up in Shavertown. Things are pretty well gone in this view. They're moving Albert Shaver's house up the Tremperscale. Al Marshall had it moved. It's going over the bridge over Buzzy Hollow Brook. This is another auction. There were several auctions as people left the valley. This would be one of the other villages. This is more of the valley as it's being destroyed. This is Arena, the iron bridge across the east branch of the Delaware River. So it's got to be,
This is the Pepacton area, right where the high line goes across the reservoir.
That's my car driving down to Shavertown. Not much left. Pretty well torn up. Now we're in another part of the valley. Construction all around. This is Ward Shaver's house. The construction company used this for their offices, and after Shavertown was all destroyed, this house was burned. Do we have to do any other?
This is the foundations on the Hogue farm. George Hogue. This is the Shavertown Bridge. They was going to save it for the iron that was in it, so they're cutting it. And it just fell in the river where it remains today. Alice looking over the bridge.
This was the auction at Harry Lincoln's farm on Back River Road below Shavertown. That's Bob Luddle. This is the autumn view of Shavertown, Eva Van Duzen's hotel. This was taken from the Iron Bridge at Shavertown, the east branch of the Delaware River. A nice autumn scene. That's Eva Van Duzen getting out of the car. Another auction. This was Don McEwen's auction at Shavertown. That's Don McEwen there. That's Don McEwen patting the heifer.
Carl Diley.
This is the Weaver auction in the Union Grove area.
Albert Shaver in the black and white check.
This is our farm, George Hogue Farm, 1 mile below Shavertown. It's the back of our house. Patty Crosley on the left, myself on the right.
Alice Hogue with her bulldog.
That's our chicken houses in the background. My sister Betty and Mark Burke getting in their car. My grandmother, Amanda Fletcher, got in with them. We're heading up to Shavertown now. This is a summer view of the flat on the farm. The river flowed along behind the trees. Route 30 was overcrossed. It's a lilac bush in back of the house. Bernie Davis getting on the tractor, planting corn. Frank Van Dusen.
Alice Hogue giving her bulldog a ride on the bicycle.
That was some of the roses on the farm.
Alice again.
Some of the East Branch of the Delaware River. Now we're around in front of the house, my mother and myself.
Cultivating corn.
Betty and I are playing croquet on the front lawn. That's the pet goose.
Some of the river bottom land on the farm.
That's the Shavertown Cemetery in the background. That's our house as it looked from the road. There's Betty with her horse.
Raking hay. Baling hay with a round baler. George Hogue on the tractor.
This was the Shavertown Ladies' Aid gathering at our farmhouse. Edna Butler, Kelly Van Steenberg with the small child, Eva Van Dusen, Ina Saff, my mother, Ellen Van Steenberg falls down. They're all laughing at her. That's my grandmother with the white scarf. Milford Butler.
Betty Hogue raking hay. Loading hay on the truck with a rope hay loader. Mowing hay.
That's looking up towards Forrest Lakin's place. Edna Goyette, my grandmother, Amanda Fletcher, and Al Goyette. That's the elm tree in the background.
This is a spring house. Cutting corn.
Now it's on. This was a Hogue reunion down on the farm. Bob Hogue preached the sermon at the Presbyterian church, and all the Hogues came, and we had a reunion down on the farm afterwards.
Alice and Betty in the flower garden.
That's Frank Van Dusen walking towards the covered bridge, lower Shavertown, over Beach Hill Brook. And that's his dog, Sport. That's the back of Ina Seth's house. This was our cow pasture and cows. This was on the road check farm on Beach Hill Road.
This was on Back River Road between Pepacton and Downsville, is where Cat Hollow came out on the Back River Road. You can see the straight line of the railroad track down through there, and the east branch of the Delaware River. The Jack Bow Barn. This was a house on the Jack Bow farm. Jack Bow working the land. Haying on the Jack Bow farm. Pepacton covered bridge. The elm tree at Pepacton at the end of the bridge. Emmett's Inn at Pepacton was run by Emmett Bryden. This was a farmer's picnic at Pepacton. The Shaver sawmill in Pepacton was run by Eldred Shaver's dad. The Elm Hotel in Pepacton. This was taken in front of the hotel. The Pepacton Railroad Station. This was a red heifer. Borden's Creamery in Pepacton. There was also a Breakstone's Creamery at one time. Pepacton School. This is the way they hauled the lumber to the railroad station. Rob Miller. This was a whitewash man. Had a little hand pump on the wagon they whitewashed the barns with, the dairy barns. Pepacton feed store. At one time the post office was in this building. Goods store. It was later run by Willis Terry. It was just a general store. Holiday Brook farmers collecting their indirect business claims from New York City. Live and Bramer on the left. My Uncle Ike Jacobson and Herman Godfrey, Bill Bow, John Shaver, and my dad David Jacobson. Norris Eddy, Shavertown. This was the Don Bramley farm, Back River Road between Pepacton and Shavertown. This was a covered bridge over Beach Hill Brook. This area was known as Lower Shavertown in the early days. Ina Seth's house in the background. This view was taken from the lake and ledges, the George Hogue farm in the foreground, and the Harold Paul farm, and Don Bramley farm down the valley.
This was the Catholic Church in Shavertown. It was actually 1 mile below Shavertown, across from the Shavertown Cemetery. This was the autumn scene on the farm, 1 mile below Shavertown, the George Hope farm. This is a postcard view of Shavertown, the McEwen farm. We used this on the cover of the book, Beneath Pepacton Waters. The Iron Bridge at Shavertown. This is a postcard view of Shavertown in the early days, early 1900s, when they had some factories. You could see the smoke. There was a turning mill, an seltzer factory, an acid factory for a few years, and creameries. Cox's sawmill at Shavertown. This is looking down River Street at Shavertown. You can see the stone wall on the left. It was a really beautiful street. This is the Iron Bridge at Shavertown. Presbyterian Church in Shavertown. This was the interior view of the Shavertown Presbyterian Church, and those windows are in the Andes Presbyterian Church now. This was a wedding at the Presbyterian Church. It was the Edith Teich and Jehiah Little wedding. This is the early postcard view. The store and post office at Shavertown. My grandfather, Lester Halbert, built this store. And you can see at the left there, they're just building what was at that time Charlie Dutcher's Hotel. There were other buildings built since then, probably around 1906. And this was the store and post office at Shavertown. Sometime prior to 1918, it was remodeled. A new porch was put around it. Sometime before my grandfather died, he died in 1918. Atkins operated the store for many years, and Ines was postmaster. This was a nice postcard view of Armstrong's store in Shavertown. This is an interior view of Armstrong's store. This was the Shavertown Fair. They used to get some large crowds at this fair for that period of time. I think it run from about 1898 to 1906, and they used to get something like 2,500 to 3,000 people that attended this fair. This was Sam Platania's restaurant and barber shop in Shavertown. He is standing on the left there by the fence. This is Don Elwood's gas station and garage at Shavertown along Route 30. This was the Advent Church down on River Street in Shavertown. This was the Conklin House down along River Street in Shavertown. This house was taken apart and moved to Delhi in the Sherwoods section. They built 4 houses from it. This is an air view of Union Grove. This was a postcard view, Mill Street, Union Grove. Van Kuren's store. They're taking down the railroad bridge at Union Grove. Union Grove Railroad Station. Another postcard view of Union Grove, Main Street. This is another postcard view of Union Grove Mills. And this is also the Union Grove Railroad Station, the old hand car. This was a train wreck, the Delaware and Eastern, May 24, 1908. This was an air view of Arena. This is the Iron Bridge crossing the East Branch of the Delaware, and you can see Arena in the background. This is a postcard view of the D&E depot at Arena. This was the first train arriving in Arena. And this was also a postcard view of Church and Maple Avenue Arena. This was a postcard view, Church Street in Arena. This was the residence of L.A. Fuzzy Arena, postcard view. The Advent Christian Church in Arena. Stone Arch Bridge near Arena. This was the Toth Farm along Route 30, just above Arena. You could spend a weekend there for $24. This was the old stone schoolhouse bridge at Dunraven, right near the...
This is on the L.A. Bramley farm on Beach Hill. They're haying it. Doing the copy work on these films is Alice and Bob Jacobson. That's Allie Bramley with a real nice pair of horses. And that's horse racing at Walton Fair.